This video has 20 fall DIY decor inspiration for you, all from trendy, colorful to neutrals, and I know you're gonna love it, so let's get right to it. All right, for this DIY, we are going to take this piece of wood that I get at the hardware store. If you follow me for a while now, you know that I love going to the hardware store and getting pieces of wood in the scrap wood area. This is the area where customers go, get a piece of wood cut to whatever size they want, and then whatever is left over, they don't feel like taking it, so they leave it there, and I get them for 25 cents. Now this piece here was the way that it was not cut, it was already this size. So I am going to pretty much give it one coat, a pretty heavy one coat of Rust-Oleum chalk paint in the linen white, and then let it dry. While that's drying, I am going to take this Hello Fall wooden words, and I am going to, these are from Hobby Lobby. I am going to remove the jute twine and fill in the little holes with some wood filler, scrape it off so that it is smooth, and then we're going to start to paint it. Originally, I thought I would do the entire thing one color, and then I thought, you know what? Let's add some multiple colors here. I started with this nice, beautiful blue from Artisa. However, it's a little bit too translucent for my vision. My vision was to have a little bit more of a cottage blue. So anyways, nonetheless, I'm just going to show you the process because it is a beautiful blue. It almost stained the wood instead of painting the blue, which is beautiful, but I think it had more of a summer tone to it. So I did take some of this blue. This is Coastal Blue by Rust-Oleum chalk paint, and this did the trick. As a matter of fact, I think it worked out perfect having both colors because that lighter blue kind of came through and it turned out really cute. Then the bottom one, I am going to use another Artisa color. This is one of they're like more like a fall color, it's an amber color, and I'm just going to paint the fall with that color and then let it fully dry. Now I am going to take this fabric that I recently got at Hobby Lobby. They have some beautiful selections, and this was 40% off, and I got a yard, and I'm going to cut a piece. I don't know, it was about 10 inches. It was just long enough to cover one side, and then I cut it about 10 inches wide, give or take. I am now going to spread it on the left side of the board, covering one side, and I am going to hot glue it as well as staple it. I'm going to take a quick second here and ask that if you are enjoying this video so far, to give me a thumbs up. A thumbs up on my videos really help my video reach more people, and it helps my channel grow. So I would really appreciate it if you did. Once I had that in place, it's time to take some of this ticking stripe fabric. I also got a Hobby Lobby, but it was more in the summertime. I'm going to cut a piece here. This one is about 4 inches, and again, just long enough to go around the back. I'm going to staple it in place right in the center of the yellow fabric. I am then going to take the Hello Fall, and I am going to place it to the right side of the fabric and brad nail it in place with 1/2 inch brad nails. That way it'll stay in place and we're done. I love this sign, guys. I can't believe I actually love these colors for fall this year. I don't know why. I've just been into these like yellow tones and blues, and I just really love the way this one turned out. Beautiful. All right, so don't laugh here, okay? But this is one of these funeral homes, little vases. You know what I'm talking about. You've seen them. My mom found two of them in the trash on the side of the road. She literally grabbed them and brought them to me. So yes, I disinfected them with some disinfecting wipes and got them really, really clean. And now I'm just going to start painting it using that same Coastal Blue by Rust-Oleum chalk paint. The first coat was kind of sloppy because it is a very slick surface. So I did do one coat, and then the second coat, I'm not going to show you, but the second coat I actually dabbed it instead of brushing it. So instead of like swiping brush, I just dabbed it and it worked out better. So this is after two coats here, and now I'm going to distress this so that some of those white details start popping, because this vase has a lot of texture, and by wiping it with a wet cloth, I'm using the wet distressing technique here, I'm just going to start removing some of the paint, and that way some of those details will pop nicely. I am now going to take some of this floral foam from the Dollar Tree, and I am going to hot glue it all the way inside to the bottom and just fill in all the corners, because we're going to make a beautiful fall arrangement, and I want to make sure that I have floral foam in every side. I'm going to use a combination of different florals. This is going to be florals from Dollar Tree, florals from Hobby Lobby, and florals from Walmart. It's just whatever I had on hand, for the exception of the Hobby Lobby florals that I'll show you here in a minute. This moss is from Dollar Tree. I love the fact that it had green as well as brown moss, and I think it was perfect for fall. However, you couldn't even see it anyways because I filled it up with flowers, but nonetheless, it's in there and it looks pretty. I'm going to take some of these little, they're like full little, oh, what do you call it? They're just dried leaves, and I'm just going to start sticking them in everywhere, as well as some faux dried corn stalks that I have had since last year. And I'm going to start with these because they are the taller ones, thinner ones, and I just want to put these in first. And then some of those ones, they're right in the center. And then I'm going to start adding some of the Hobby Lobby flowers that I recently got. These are beautiful. I actually got them in these kind of like orangey tones, as well as the beige, as well as a burgundy. Oh, I'm so in love. But today I'm only going to use 3 of this one because I just want to keep the yellowish, bluish kind of tone here. So then after that, I started adding some of these orange flowers from the Dollar Tree. I just used one pick and then cut off all the little branches, and I'm just going to place them everywhere until I see it nicely even everywhere. Then I'm going to take some of these little faux leather pumpkins from Hobby Lobby, and I'm going to use a skewer stick, and I'm going to hot glue the tip and then stick it right on the bottom because they are cotton. They have like cotton inside. And I'm just going to stick them in there, and I'm going to do 3. And I'm going to spread them nicely, you know, maybe 1 in each side and then 1 towards the front. But look how cute this looks. I can't believe this was in the trash, and I have another one that I can do something with, maybe for Christmas. I'm excited, but I think it turned out beautiful. For this next DIY, we are going to cover this decorative pillow. This pillow was on my bed, in my bedroom for a while, and it's had better days. It has a hole on one side, and it's just not the way. It doesn't look pretty. So we are going to give it a fall cottage look here. We're going to take more of that yellow fabric. Don't mind the wonderful cut. I can't believe I cut that so uneven. Anyways, you won't be able to see it. Now I am going to, so this is only going to cover one side of the pillow, like half the pillow. And I am going to make basically a pocket for one side of the pillow. And I'm going to hot glue 2 sides, leaving one of the larger sides open. And that's going to be where I'm going to slide one side of the pillow. I am then going to I'm actually going to flip it inside out so you see what I'm talking about. It's just a little pocket. So then I'm going to take some drop cloth. Now, you know, if you follow me again, you know that I love working with drop cloth. It has a very natural muted tones that I love, and the texture. So I'm going to do the same thing here, and I'm just going to cut enough fabric and hot glue 2 ends until I have another pocket. I cut out the word autumn with my Cricut using some stencil vinyl. By the way, I have this stencil vinyl in my Amazon store if you're interested. I really love it for stenciling. And I also have a lot of my supplies and tools and paint that I love from Amazon in my Amazon store, which is linked down below. So I transferred it to the bottom side of the drop cloth, and now I am stenciling it with a makeup sponge as well as that same coastal blue from Rust-Oleum chalk paint. I'm just going to stencil the whole thing, not looking for perfection because I do like a little bit of distressed look, and then it'll be done. And now it's time to get the pillow inside the cover. So we're going to start with the yellow one. It's kind of snug, but that's good. I like making my pillowcases just a little bit smaller than the pillow. That way it fits nicely and they're not going to be too big on them. And then we're going to do the other one as well, overlapping the yellow. And I think this pillow turned out so stinking cute. I love the texture. I love the colors. And what a great way to reuse a pillow that just had better days. But I just love the way it turned out. For this next DIY, we are going to start with this Dollar Tree gourd. It is beautiful. However, I am going to give it a new look. I am going to paint it just one coat of the coastal blue chalk paint and from Rust-Oleum, and then I am going to start. It's going to be like a little stack of pumpkins. As you can see, I did take a dowel and stick it right in the middle, and then I'm going to use one of the Dollar Tree floral foams so that it dries. So this is going to take another one of those little tiny faux leather pumpkins from Hobby Lobby, and I'm going to cut a little bit of that ticking stripe fabric, and we're going to wrap it using hot glue. Now this took a little bit because this tiny little pumpkin, it was hard to cover it up, but using some glue and just all 10 of my fingers, I got it to be covered.
It's 2 a.m. and I can't fall asleep 'cause I'm not tired. I'm thinking about the days we used to shine when we were young. I told you
I am now going to take this little white pumpkin that came as inside a pick from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to reuse the little tiny stem that the faux leather pumpkin had, and I'm going to hot glue it to the top. And now we're going to stack everything, hot gluing it in place and creating a little pumpkin stack. Now the Rust-Oleum chalk paint looks like it's still wet, but I promise you it's not. I don't know what was going on with the paint. I don't know if there was something on the actual pumpkin that made it look this way, but it was dry. I mean, my fingers were not getting painted. The white surface was not getting painted. So I don't know. I kind of like it. I enjoy seeing things that are not perfect, but I have no clue why it looked still like it was wet. But we're going to start using some Dollar Tree berries and some Dollar Tree little decorative florals here to add a little bit of something to the pumpkin stack. I tried hot gluing that. You see how it keeps sticking up. I kept pushing it down. It kept coming back up. So in a little bit, I'll show you what I did to keep it down. So here it is. I'm going to bend one of those little wires from the berries, and I'm just going to stick it right onto the foam pumpkin, and that made it stick. And then I realized that it was kind of long, so I cut off a lot of the little brown berries that you see there, and you're going to see how I hot glue it to the top, and it worked out really well. And we're just about done. Look how beautiful this little stack of pumpkin looks. We are going to start here in my garage, and I am going to take some of these scrap wood pieces that I have had for a while. They're different lengths, different shapes, but we are going to use several of them. All right, so what I am going to be making is a kind of like a planked style vertical sign for fall, and I wanted to have different style, different thickness, and different textures of wood. So I just went and grabbed just some scrap pieces that I had left over of wood. They're all about the same thickness, which is okay, but I want them to have a different thickness going this way, as well as different textures. So I also got this one. It's a little bit different. It's rounded, but we're gonna cut them to different lengths. And once I had them cut to the length that I wanted, I am now going to just stagger them in whatever pattern I want, whatever seems and feels right to me and what I'm looking for, I guess. And then once I have them, I am going to start painting them. We are going to paint them in multiple colors, and my inspiration for it is this fabric that we are going to be using in a little bit. But I got that at Hobby Lobby, and I just love the colors. It had a very trendy kind of fall theme color, so I am going to, that's my inspiration. So I am going to paint two of them white. I'm not looking for perfection because we are going to be distressing them pretty heavily, so I'm not looking for everything to have full coverage. The other colors, I'm going to go with this yellow by Rust-Oleum milk paint, and I'm also going to use a DIY paint by Debbie's Design Diary in the Apothecary. I'm also going to use a green color by Dixie Belle. And then lastly, I am going to use an amber tone color by Artisa. It's a latex color, but it ended up distressing pretty well, so I was happy with it. So I'm just going to, again, just continue to paint here and let it fully dry. As I mentioned earlier, I am going to distress these pieces pretty heavily, so I am using my palm sander and a 50 grit, not a 50, a 150 grit sandpaper, and I'm just going to go about and just distressing all the boards. You can go as little or as much as you want, or you can leave them just as they were. It's no right or wrong way. I just like the distressed look for this particular design. So I'm going to distress all of them, focusing mainly on the edges as well as a little bit in the center. Once they were distressed, I just dusted them off, then flipped them over, and then I just kind of staggered them or kind of spread them as far left and right as I wanted them to go. And then I am going to use two of those larger paint sticks, and I'm going to cut the excess of them off, and then I'm going to brad nail them in place. Using my Cricut, I cut out the phrase, "There is always something to be grateful for." I got inspired by one that I saw on Pinterest, and I thought that is perfect for this sign. So I'm going to use some transfer tape here that I get on Amazon. I do have it linked down below. Actually, a lot of the supplies that I use on my videos, paint, vinyl, cutting tools, my power tools, I have a lot of them in my Amazon store, so check them out. I do have my Amazon store linked down below. So I'm just going to keep transferring the words to each plank, and then we're going to get to adding some screws to the back so that we can hang it. I decided to keep it simple. I added a couple screws to the back, and then I'm going to add some wire and twist it around each screw, and that way we can hang it on the wall if needed. And that's it for this one, guys. It turned out so beautiful. It's actually one of my favorites from today. I love the colors. I love how fall it is, but yet it has just these beautiful trendy colors that I really, really am digging right now. Alright, for this next one, we are going to quickly grab here this little thrift wood that I was kind of cleaning, not too much, guys, but sort of kind of organized in our garage. And I found those thrift woods, and so I picked one of them, and I'm going to cut a piece off of it. Now I am going to take some of that fabric that I showed you earlier. That was the whole inspiration for today's video. I'm going to cut out a piece. I didn't measure it. I just kind of eyed it out. But if I were to measure it, I would say it's about an 18 by 24 inch. But give or take depending. We're just going to make a very simple fabric pumpkin. I'm sure you've seen a million of these versions being made on YouTube and other media, but I decided to make my own, and hopefully it's a little different that can inspire you. So I'm just going to take some of that pillow stuffing. I usually have a Walmart pillow. They're like $3, and I usually have one in my home specifically where I can just take some of the stuffing out as needed. And I'm going to start wrapping the fabric around, right? You know what I'm talking about. Just wrap around, making sure that any of the smaller edges are tucked in into the larger ones so they don't stick out. Now with this one, I don't know why it took me so long to make. I have made so many of these pumpkins, and for some reason I could not get a handle on this one. But nonetheless, I figured it out, and then once I had it tucked in where I wanted, I took some jute twine and I tied it on the center there, on the top, with a simple knot. And then I cut off the excess on top. Now, after I cut off the excess, I realized I never put in my thrift wood in. So then I cut the jute twine off again. This time I'm kind of freaking out because I'm thinking, oh my gosh, if I let go of these little tiny pieces of fabric on top, but I figured it out. So I'm going to stick the driftwood right in there, and then I am going to tie everything nicely tight. That way it's not going to come off. Now, if some of the little edges come off, don't stress about it. You can always hot glue it neatly on the sides and it should be fine. But in my case, it actually worked out. But it was truly a miracle because I was struggling with this. So once I had it tied with a knot, again, a very simple knot, I decided to just take some more jute twine and just make a multiple loop bow with it. I just wrap it around my fingers, scrunch it in the middle, take another piece of jute twine, tie it around the middle, and that's it. And then once I had it all done, it was time to then hot glue it to the front of the pumpkin. And I did cut off the excess jute strings that are just laying around there. And that's it for this one, guys. Ooh, this one is definitely one of my favorites. I love this fabric. I love the colors. And again, it was the inspiration for my whole video today. But let me know what you think of this little pumpkin. Oh, I love it. For this next DIY, we are going to take some of these magnolia leaves that I got at the Dollar General. They were only $2 picks, and the bigger one was $2, and then the other one was $2 too, but it was a leftover piece from another project. I am not going to take this Dollar Tree pick that I recently got in their fall section. I'm just going to fan it out, spread it out, and place it right on top of the magnolia leaves. And then I'm going to take this little pick with little pumpkins, again from the Dollar Tree, fan it out, place it on top, and the same with these orange florals. This is a very easy arrangement that we're going to make. You can place on anywhere, really any wall, or even the front door instead of a wreath. I think it will look really beautiful, and it's really easy. I'm showing you a very simple way that you can do it. So once I had all the picks laying right on top of each other, right now I'm just kind of threading several pegs, like little branches to come forward and then back, just to kind of make it look a little bit more natural. Once I had it where I want it, I'm going to take more jute twine and I'm going to tie the stems together. And then I'm going to take some burlap ribbon from burlap ribbon. Let's see, burlap fabric. Is it burlapfabric.com? Yes. Anyways, this is burlap ribbon and I'm going to do multiple loops and then cut it out. And then I'm just going to scrunch it in the middle and tie it with some jute twine. Once I have it tied in the back, then I am going to wrap it around the stems and tie it to the stems. And that way it's just nice and secure. I thought about hot gluing it, but it's better when you're working with stems to just tie it in the back. And then once I had it tied in the back, it was time to add some of that fabric again. The fabric that the whole inspiration fabric, you know what I'm talking about. And I'm going to cut a piece off of it. You see, it's just like a little rectangle. I'm going to fold it until I have about 8 or 9 inches wide. And then I am going to scrunch it in the middle and tie it with jute twine. And that's so that we can create a little bow, but have the fabric tones. I want all these DIYs to kind of go together and like they belong to each other, like they're a set. Once I have it where I want it, now I'm going to, once again, with the excess jute twine, string it in through the flowers and then tie it in the back with a simple knot. I'm going to arrange the bows just so that they look nicely and neat. Then I'm going to take more of that thicker jute twine and wrap it around a few times. And once again, I'm going to make a very simple multiple loop bow, tie it in the middle with some jute twine and hot glue it to the front of the fabric bow. This is just going to finish it off and look very, very cute. Just add some more layers. And then I decided there was something missing right underneath the bows. So that little empty area in the front. So I cut out these 2 picks from a Dollar Tree pick. And I'm going to just slide them in there. I'm not even going to hot glue. Just going to slide them in all the way in as far as I want. And that way it just fills in that little area there. And then to finish everything off, I am going to cut the excess stems just so they're still showing, but just so they are all the same size. And look how cute this little swag is. I love it. It's actually a pretty good size. Most of the items are from the Dollar Tree or the Dollar General. And of course, you can use any ribbon that you may have on hand, and it's perfect for any fall decor. For this next DIY, we are going to take some more of this wood that I have on hand. This is a 1x3, a 1x4, and a 1x6. And we are going to start cutting them all about 9 inches, maybe about 10 inches. The larger one is about 10 inches. And then the medium-sized one was about an inch smaller. And then the smaller one about an inch smaller than that. So then I'm going to cut off an angled cut. This is like a 45 angle cut to each end, only on the top of the board. So this is what we're looking. They look like little tiny houses. We are going to paint the larger one in the same Rust-Oleum yellow that I used earlier and only give it 1 coat this time. The middle one, the medium-sized one, is going to be stained using some Waverly antiquing wax. And I'm just going to brush it on and wipe off the excess. And then the smaller one is going to be painted once again with the Apothecary color by DIY Paint. And I'm going to let them fully dry. Once they're dry, we are going to be distressing them once again using my palm sander. I want to take a minute here and ask that if you are enjoying and liking this video, give me a thumbs up. Giving me a thumbs up on my videos help the video reach more people and helps my channel grow. So I really, I would appreciate if you did that for me. And now we are going to just stack them on top of each other, larger to smallest one. And we are going to secure them using brad nails in the 1 inch. And I'm going to place them right in the center so you don't see them on the middle one. Now on the top one, we are going to brad nail them in each corner. That way it looks a little bit neater and more unified, but I don't mind seeing those brad nails. And then once we had them secured, it's time to drill a hole on the larger one. So just on the top one, or the larger one on the top. And I am going to place some hot glue right inside the hole, and then one of these skewers sticks right in there, and then we are going to cut, leaving about an inch on top. Then we're going to take another piece of that driftwood that we used earlier in the pumpkin. We are going to drill a hole on that one as well, put in some hot glue, and then stick it in right in the stick right there. And then that way it's nicely secure and it's not going to come off. We're going to make like a little 3D pumpkin. Now we're going to take some of that thicker jute twine, tie it around the stem. Again, make a multiple loop simple bow, tie it in the center with some jute twine, and hot glue it to the front of the little stem there. And then I decided to take some greenery from, I don't know what it was. I think it was just from greenery that it fell off of another pick. And I'm just going to pull a couple of the green stems there, and I'm just going to hot glue them and place them in right up behind the bow, kind of just sticking out through the back. And I'm going to do that on the other side. And then once I have that all glued on there, that's it. We're done. I guess I could have added a lot more, but I always tend to go on the simple side, and I just think this 3D pumpkin turned out stunning. What a way to add more texture and just another piece of decor with the same colors that we've been working with. Look how beautiful it looks there with the other fabric pumpkin. I just love it. Alright, so we are going to start with this paneling kind of board here. If you have followed me for a while, you know that I get tons of my wood pieces from the scrap wood area at the hardware store. This was one of those that were cut and somebody left the remaining board. So this was it. And it was only 25 cents, and that is at my store. So if you have a hardware store, ask them if they have a scrap wood area. I am going to give it 1.5 of a coat of, and when I say 1.5 is one full coat and then a second one only where it's needed. And this is going to be regular household latex paint. You know that I love chalk paint, but every so often I like to use latex paint, especially for larger projects like these, because, it's a lot less expensive to buy latex household paint. I just want to show you the wood grain, the beautiful wood grain that is showing even through the paint. Do you see that? Using my Cricut, I cut out a stencil that said fall breeze and autumn leaves, and I'm just going to place it right in the center. I designed it to where I have it kind of like centered and a little bit to the right. So I'm just going to transfer it. And by the way, I have this vinyl as well as other supplies and tools that I use throughout my videos and my Amazon store. So check it out. If you haven't seen it yet, it's a store. You just click on the link down below, and I have all of my favorite Amazon supplies there. So check it out. So I am going to stencil it using this Artisa Amber color latex paint. It's beautiful. It's perfect for fall. And yeah, I'm just using a makeup sponge, and I'm just going to stencil it and then remove the vinyl. I want this sign as well as my decorations today to have a very traditional farmhouse look. So I am going to distress this. It's going to be heavily distressed, specifically on the edges, but we are going to distress the whole thing. Now, everything that I am making today, I'm actually going to use on my mantle at home. So if you are not subscribed to my home channel yet, I ask that you consider doing so, because this Saturday, I am going to be showing how I use all of these DIYs on my mantle here at home, as well as other DIYs that I have had for a couple of years now. So make sure you tune in this Saturday at 9 a.m. Eastern on my home channel so you can see how my mantle looks. All right. So then after everything was distressed and sanded, I am going to distress it even more by adding antiquing wax. I love doing this technique because it just makes everything look just so antique and old. So I'm just going to dab it with a chippy brush, and then I'm going to do that all around. So all around the edge, I'm going to do that. And then on the corners, you can see that I kind of bring it in just a bit more. I'm going to dab, 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 and then I am going to kind of brush a little bit here and there, but I'm also going to then take a dry rag and I am going to kind of mute and kind of remove any excess antiquing wax. You don't have to do that. I just do that because one, it just kind of mutes it and makes it look a little bit more natural, and two, it removes the excess antiquing wax. Then I'm just going to sand it down even more. Now this time I'm very lightly pushing on the sander. I don't want to remove all the antiquing wax. I just want to soften it just a little bit. And that's it, guys. I think this one turned out absolutely stunning. Wait until you see it on my fireplace. I think it looks beautiful, and it's the center of my fireplace mantle. So can't wait for you to see. All right, so we are out here in my garage, and I have this huge piece, chunk of wood. It is a 2, maybe by 12, and it's a piece that's been here in our garage for a little bit. But I am going to cut the corners in a 45-degree angle using my miter saw, and we are going to create a very large rustic pumpkin for my fireplace.
You needed me like a cargo, you will carry me. I just hope you know my death, even though it makes sense.
All right, so now we're back inside, and I am just going to sand this piece of wood. I am going to try to heavily distress the edges just so that it kind of changes a little bit of the color of the wood when you're sanding it. But overall, I am going to sand everything lightly, heavier on the edges, just to, again, remove any splinters, smooth it out, as well as just distress it just a bit. This piece of wood, this stick I got off of my backyard, I did cut out a piece. It's about, I don't know, maybe about 4 inches long. I am going to drill a hole both on the stick as well as the piece of wood, because this is how I am going to attach the stem. And I'm just going to add hot glue in the hole, add a skewer stick right inside, cut the exit stick, and then add hot glue on the what will be the stem, and then place it right in. This is going to keep it pretty sturdy, and it's not going to go anywhere. I'm also going to add some of these faux magnolia leaves that I got at Dollar General. I've had them for a while now. I'm just going to add a couple, hot gluing them. And then I decided to add a little cotton stem and some other little decor. I'm just going to drill a couple of holes on the top of the wood, add hot glue just like I did with the stem, but this time is to hold the cotton stem right in, and then I can just fold it forward. And that way I'm not stapling it. It just looks cleaner, and it just holds it in place pretty well, actually. And I did the same thing with this, I think it's called is it a cattail? I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you know what this is called. But I think that's what it's called. And I did the same thing. I just drilled a hole and added hot glue and placed it in. I'm just going to add this piece of leftover jute rope. It literally was a piece of scrap jute rope. I grabbed it, I saw it, I was like, I think that looks good. So I tied it around the stem, and that's it. This pumpkin is stunning, and it is so heavy and so rustic. I love the farmhouse look it has. For this DIY, I am going to take this vase that I very recently got at the thrift store. It was $10. Now, let me tell you, I do not spend $10 on anything at the thrift store except for a couple of things. This one and another vase that I recently got. But that's because this vase, it is insanely heavy duty. It is heavy. It is authentic. It has texture. It is just stunning. So it is a bit too grungy for me, like that yellowish beige color. So I am going to dry brush it, the whole thing. Now you're going to see that I'm going to keep dry brushing and dry brushing and dry brushing. Now I'm going to speed it up just a little bit for you, but I'm actually want you to see, because I know some of you have asked me in the past, when you dry brush, do this or that. So I'm going to have you watch as much as possible the process. But all I'm doing is adding layer upon layer of dry brush. Now, because the darker areas of the vase is actually indented, the dry brush just kind of go over it, but it doesn't really cover it fully. And I'm only adding a very little amount of paint on the brush every time I dip it in the paint. So as you can see, I'm just adding layer upon layer. And basically, when you are dry brushing, once you add one coat on one side, when you get to that side again, it's already dry. That's why it's called dry brushing. It's just hardly any paint and it dries pretty quickly. So I just wanted you to see the step by step and kind of like the process. Now, it took me about 20 minutes, so I'm not going to have you watch the whole 20 minutes, but I wanted you to watch enough so that you can kind of get a sense of what it is. So basically, adding layer upon layer of dry brush. All right, friends, so here we are. I'm still working on the vase. I actually enjoy doing this kind of stuff where I can take my time and just kind of make it my own, use creativity, add paint where I need, that kind of thing. But I just really excited about how this is turning out. So let me see if I can get more lighting here. So you see, like, obviously you see a lot more of the white than the yellowish that it had, but you still see a lot of the dark, and you still see some of that yellowish pop through, which make it look very, very authentic and very antique. But I'm just loving the way this is turning out by just dry brushing, taking my time dry brushing, and I think it's turning out awesome.
The blackbird inside your chest that calls on you to cry.
This next DIY is actually pretty simple, but I wanted to add just something more in the yellow tone because the main theme on my mantle this year is going to be yellow. It was the same thing last year, but this year I am going to, create new DIYs so that it looks new but not spend a lot of money. This gather sign I got at the Dollar Tree recently. It's like an MBF board. It's not pretty heavy duty, but it's pretty thick. And I am going to use this Rust-Oleum milk paint in their yellow tone. I'm just going to start painting it. I did a total of 3 coats. The reason why is because it's milk paint and it's almost watery. So chalk paint is a lot thicker and has better coverage. Milk paint does not. But I love the color, so I just decided to just paint it. I'm not looking for perfection. Again, we are going to be distressing it with some antiquing wax here in a little bit. But I do want it to be enough covered where you can see the yellow. So I added several coats, I think it was 3 coats of the milk paint, and then made sure that you don't see a lot of the brush strokes. So I just kind of took my time and really brushed it and really make sure that it was the way I wanted it. Now I'm going to take another makeup sponge, and this time I'm going to use it with antiquing wax. I'm just going to dip it, then remove a lot of the excess wax from it, and then just dip and tap on the edges. And I'm going to do that all over the word gather. So I'm going to do it on all the edges, including like the inner edges. I'm if you are DIYing, like when I DIY, I'm never looking for perfection, because if I do, it's going to drive me crazy because no one's perfect. I know I'm not that perfect. So here I'm just dabbing, dabbing, dabbing. And you can see that in some areas it's heavier than other. But then what I do is I use my fingers as well as a dry rag, and I just kind of mute it. Just kind of like take off some of the excess, kind of like mute and smudge all the antiquing wax. And that way it looks a lot more natural. All right, we're just about done with this one. Let me know what you think of this one. At first, I was not exactly convinced, and then, wow. That yellow is stunning. And then adding the antiquing wax just add dimension, and I love it. Please make sure you go visit my home channel. Again, it's linked down below. You're going to love the way my mantle turned out. I promise you.
To hold my hand, standing in the shadows of where we have been.
For this DIY, we are going to take one of these little houses that I recently got at the Target Dollar Spot. And I think the Target Dollar Spot is now called Bullside Playground. Am I correct? Let me know in the comments if that's correct. And anyways, it brought 3 in a pack for $5, and this is the larger of the 3, and that's exactly, I'm just going to use this one, just this one for now. I'm going to take this fabric that I recently got also at Hobby Lobby, and I am going to place it on one corner, leaving the frayed part towards the bottom of the house. Using a pencil, I traced it. This is just to give you an idea. If you don't have cutting tools like this rotary cutter, then you can certainly just trace it and cut it with scissors. But I had this tool from Cricut, and I thought I'm going to use it, and it worked out perfectly. And the little chimney part was in the way, so I just flipped it over, and it allowed me to cut that side as well. So I just make sure that it was as close to the edge as possible, but I'm not even going to cut off the frayed portion of the bottom because I love how it looks. Using this tacky glue from the Dollar Tree, I am just going to place quite a bit amount on it, and then using my fingers, I am just going to spread it. Don't they say that the best tools that you have are in your hands, right? I think that's true, actually. So these, I'm just basically spreading it very thinly as possible, so that they are not big clumps of glue. And then I am just going to place the fabric right on top. Now there's no rush because this glue takes just a little bit to dry. So if you're ever using it, know that you can always move it around. Like there, I was just adjusting the edges, making sure everything was nicely covered. But it worked out well. And then I'm going to take these little grateful wooden word. I got these at Hobby Lobby. They come, I believe it was 6 in a pack, and I had thankful, grateful, blessed, 2 of each. And I'm just going to hot glue it to the center of the house, and I'm going to tilt it. So it's not going to be completely straight. It's just going to have quite a little bit of a tilt. And then on the bottom of that tilt, so on the larger space on the bottom, I'm going to use some of these little acorns and pine cones that I got at Hobby Lobby. It comes a ton in this bag, and it was like $5.99, but I got it at 40% off. I'm going to take the white one and a little pine cone. I'm just going to hot glue them to the bottom there. And that's it, guys. This one is such an easy one, such a quick way of adding like a little bit of a detail to your fall mantle or a console table or in the kitchen even, or even a tier tray. I think it will look great in a tier tray. For this next DIY, I am going to take this wreath. This was actually from last season's Christmas. I got it at the Target Dollar Spot. It was $3, and I kept it. I never did anything with it, so we're going to reuse it today. I am going to remove the hanging ribbon that it had, and then I'm just going to spread out the branches just a little bit. This is going to add the illusion that it's a little bit of a larger wreath than what it actually is. Then I'm going to take some of these flowers that I got at Hobby Lobby, and I'm just going to cut out 3 of them. We're going to stay with a theme of 3s here. You're going to notice throughout as we continue to build this fall wreath. I'm going to bend the remaining stem that I cut off, and I'm going to just thread it through one of the branches, and I'm going to take some crafting wire, just flexible wire, and I'm just going to tighten it, and I'm going to do that with all 3 flowers. I also got these little picks from Hobby Lobby, and I just thought they were perfect for this wreath. And I'm going to leave the pick or the stem just the size that it came, and I'm going to thread it right through the same wire that I tightened the flower with. And then the remaining stem, I'm just going to wrap around the wreath. And then I'm just going to thread the flower part, or like the little feathery flower part, towards the front, just like that. That way it's in the front. And I took all 3 of them and used them, and I did it right next to each flower. Now we're going to add a little bit of color. I got these at Hobby Lobby as well, and I believe they were $5.99, 40% off. There are these 4 faux leather leaves, and I thought they were beautiful. And I'm just going to start again using 3 of them, and I'm just going to start hot gluing them all around until I kind of see what I like. So I'm just kind of keeping a pattern, but not too perfectly, because I want it to look natural. I'm now going to add some of these blue Dollar Tree flowers that I got recently in their fall collection. And I'm going to cut out 3 little stems. And again, I'm just going to start hot gluing them right in the center of each, like in between the flower and the leaf kind of thing. And again, just making sure that I like what I see, where I place them. And there's no right or wrong way. You just want to follow your instincts and just make it look as natural as possible. At this point, I realized that I don't have a quite figured out which part of the wreath is like the top or the bottom. So I decided to take the ribbon that I'm going to use to hang it, and then that way I can identify where the top is. Because you know, when you're making a wreath, if you've ever made a wreath, you know that there's usually a spot that you kind of say, yeah, that's the top of it. I don't know if that makes sense. So I found it. I added a piece of the ribbon, threaded through in between the top and the flowers, and then I just knotted it. So now I'm going to add some of these larger pine cones. I got a huge bag at Hobby Lobby, again 40% off, and I'm just going to hot glue them right in between all the florals, and again just kind of adding them separately. You know, not, it doesn't have to be in the same spot, but they just have to be evenly dispersed so that it's pleasing to the eye. And at this point I was thought, am I done? Should I leave it? And then I said, you know what, I got this Gather galvanized sign from the Target dollar spot last season, and I never used it, and I found it in my Target dollar spot box, and I thought, perfect. So I added some, again, crafting flexible wire to each end, And then I am going to thread it all through the flowers, and then I am going to tighten it in the back. I considered hot gluing it, but I thought it would kind of like weigh down some of the leaves and flowers, so I thought using wire was the best option. So again, I'm just going to add 2 of the wires, 1 on each end, and then twist them. And then I'm just going to thread them through the flowers all the way to the back. And that way I can tighten them and twist them in the back. And it looks like it's been placed and it's not weighing down the arrangement. Once I had it where I wanted it, now I'm just going to arrange the flowers. So naturally it flattened out some of the florals, but now I'm just going to fluff it and bring forward anything that I need to bring forward, and just kind of fix the flowers. So that way it looks natural and it looks put together. Look how beautiful this wreath is. Now it's on the smaller side because it was already a small wreath from the Target dollar spot, but it just served as a perfect wreath for any additional detail to any decor, and I love it. For this next DIY, we are going to head to the side of my house, and please don't mind the mess. But I found this stick. Look how awesome this stick is, and I actually thought it was going to take me longer to find one, and it was right there as I entered the gate. So we brought it in, and I am going to cut a piece of it because we are going to make a pumpkin. Now this round wood portion, it's from a tier tray from the Target dollar spot. It was $5. I got it last year and I used it as a tier tray, and then I didn't need it anymore, so I removed the round parts, and I still have another one actually. So I drilled a hole on the end of the stick that I cut out. And by the way, the tool that I used to cut out the stick is on my Amazon store as well. It's awesome. And I also drilled a hole on the top of the round wooden piece. And then I'm just going to add hot glue and a skewer stick right inside. I use this trick all the time because it works really well. Then I'm going to add hot glue into the hole on the stick as well, and then just press it right in. That way it's going to be nicely secure and it's not going to go anywhere. It actually works really, really well. You're going to think the stick is a little big. It is. But I did it purposely because I am going to add a lot of like flowers and stuff. And I just thought if I make it smaller, it's either going to cover the stick or cover a lot of the pumpkin, like a lot of the round portion. And I didn't want that. So I'm going to take one of those faux fall leaves. Faux leather, there it is, faux leather leaves, and I am going to hot glue it right there where the stick and the wood round meet. And then I'm going to take some of these flowers from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to cut. First I thought I needed 2, but I ended up using just 1. I cut off the stem and hot glued it on there as well. Now I'm going to take one of those acorns. This time I'm going to take a green one, and I'm just going to hot glue it on the opposite side of the flower. I just think it added a little bit of a cute little detail. And I'm also going to add a larger pine cone. And I think that was perfect. Then I'm just going to keep adding things as I see fit. So if you're doing things like this, just keep going slowly. Just add as you see fit. And my advice is, for me, it always works to just, once you feel in your heart it's done, it's done. Don't keep adding because you can ruin something by just keep adding and adding and adding. But that's just my advice. I added a little pick from the Dollar Tree, and look how stunning. This was part of a tier tray, guys. Seriously. I didn't need the tier tray, but I kept the wood rounds, and I'm so glad I did. And I still have another one. We'll see what I do with that one. For this next DIY, we are going to take one of these 1x3s. I think it's a 1x3. It looks like a 1x3. Maybe it's a 1x4. I don't know. I had it. I found it in the hardware store in the scrap wood area. It was a longer piece, and I cut it in half. and I am going to use it to make a 3D sign. I'm going to use these scrap pieces of paint sticks that I had. These are the larger ones, the 25-gallon ones. I keep the scrap pieces because for these things like this, you can easily use. I'm going to wood glue and brad nail them together, and this is just going to hold the two boards together. And then clean off some of that excess wood glue because, you know, I can't seem to like not put enough glue. I add so much. Anyways, once I had the boards all set, I'm going to give it one coat of Rust-Oleum chalk paint in the coastal blue and then let it fully dry. Now I'm going to sand down pretty heavily the edges of the board. And at first I thought maybe not too much, and then I was like, oh, let's do it a little heavier. It's not heavy distress, it's more of a medium distress, mainly focusing on the edges as well as the middle because it just has, you know, that plank look, and I just wanted to make that stand out. So I dusted it off and cleaned it off, and I'm going to take one of these family wooden words from the Target dollar spot. They were $3, and I am going to wood glue and brad nail it to the center of the board, again keeping it a little bit of a slant style. I don't know why I like to slant my words, but I just think it looks better than straight. Not too much of a slant, but a little bit. These are the 1-inch brad nails that I'm using here. And in this case, I ended up not filling in the holes because I felt like it added to the, I don't know. What do you think? Let me know. Then I added some nautical rope from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to staple it to the back, and that's where we can hang it from. I'm going to add some flowers here from Dollar Tree. Some of this orange, it's like a burnt orange, it's beautiful. A little yellow one that I had for a while. Actually, my daughter recommended that I used this little tiny one, and I thought it was perfect. And then I'm going to use a pine cone once again, just to kind of keep everything in the same kind of family, and hot glue it there to the center, and then one more of those Dollar Tree picks that I cut off of a larger pick, and I'm just going to place it there on the other side. And then I'm going to use one of those tiny little white acorns and hot glue it there, and that finished it off, guys. Look how stunning this looks.
To hold my hand, standing in the shadows of where we have been, sleeping with your back.
So while I was at the Dollar General recently, I found this white truck. Now, I love trucks. Probably you do too. And they come in red for Christmas. They come in all kinds of color. This black one, or this white one, is stunning and it's beautiful. But it was $12, and I kind of hesitated. But then I thought, you know, it's such good quality. The truck itself is really beautiful. The decor, however, could have been a little better. It was kind of like thrown in there, and I didn't like it. So I removed the whole thing. And then I'm going to take some Dollar Tree florals and some of these little moss balls, and I'm just going to start making it into this beautiful arrangement, and I'm just going to speed it up for you. I'm just going to bring you along as you see how some simple Dollar Tree or dollar store items can turn any decor into a higher end looking, or maybe even a decor that comes straight out of a boutique. And this is what's going to happen with this truck. The moss just kind of gives it the fullness on the inside in case you can see through. And now I'm just going to take some of these picks and just start pressing them, pushing them right onto the foam, just around the perimeter. So on the sides, on the back, but I'm going to leave the center and the front just open because we're going to add some pumpkins and some flowers. This sunflower is stunning. It's actually from Hobby Lobby. I believe it was $3.99, but it was on sale, 40% off, and I loved it. So I'm going to place it right in the front, and then this little white pumpkin that came in a bundle from Hobby Lobby as well. Now I'm going to take some of these white flowers from the Dollar Tree. Actually, it was the ones that came with the arrangement. I'm going to reuse them. And then I am going to take this one from the Dollar Tree and just place it there in the center. And look, how stunning does this look? And yes, it was $12, but if you were to find this at a higher end store or a boutique, you would be paying quite a bit more. I love it. I love the style. I love the neutral colors, and I think it's absolutely beautiful. For this next DIY, I am going to take this very simple Hello Fall sign from the Dollar General. It was $1, and we are going to give it a brand new look that's going to look like it came from a boutique. I'm going to remove everything from it, which is basically just the little, the little hanging wire there with the beads, and we're going to keep them because we're going to put them right back on it. Now I'm going to take the Waverly chalk paint in the moss, and I'm going to give it 2 coats. Don't you love this color? It is just so like butter. I don't know. It's just muted. It's beautiful. It glides on. I just love it. Anywho, so 2 coats later, I let it fully dry, and now I'm going to add one of these thankful wooden words from Hobby Lobby. They came like a little bundle of like 8 of them, and I'm going to hot glue it right kind of like towards the top with a little bit of a tilt to it, because we're going to add some details on the bottom. We're going to take this pumpkin, and at first I thought I'll cut it with the scissors, but using the serrated knife worked beautifully. So now we're going to hot glue that to the bottom of the pumpkin, and then we're going to add a little moss ball to it. And I just thought, is it odd to add a moss ball? But then I said, you know what? No, I'm going to do it because it looks just fancy, I guess. And then I'm going to add one of these small little pine cones that came a little baggy with some acorns from Hobby Lobby. So now we're going to take the wire again. We're just going to replace all those little beads, and we're going to place it back on. But when I placed it back on, I tightened it a little bit more. When I bought it, it was a little loose, and the beads were kind of dancing around, and I wanted it to be snug, tight, and look, I guess, just nice. You know, it looked high end, and I honestly love the way it turned out. And that Hello Fall design that I had at first, it was nice, but I think these little hacks here for just adding a few little decor gave it a whole different level, and I love it. For this next DIY, we are going to take this tag sign from the Dollar General. It was $2, and it's actually quite like a good size. Again, we're going to remove everything from it, and we're going to put it to the side because we are going to reuse that little pumpkin. I'm going to sand down just a little bit of that paper because it kind of pulled off, and I just want it to be smooth as possible. Removing the jute twine as well, and then we're going to give it 2 coats of Rust-Oleum chalk paint in the linen white. We're going to cover the top and the bottom, but I did want it to have a lighter undertone, so I am going to paint the whole thing. I'm going to remove all this glue. This actually took me the longest from this whole DIY. It was stuck on there. But anyways, I got it out. We're going to use that moss green again from Waverly chalk paint. We're going to give it 2 coats and also let it fully dry. And then we are going to take this tacky glue from the Dollar Tree, and we're going to apply generously, but we're going to spread it. I'm just going to use my fingers, and I'm going to spread it thinly towards the bottom. So it's probably about 3.5, maybe 4 inches wide. It don't matter. I just eyed it out. And then I'm going to take this buffalo check fabric that I recently got at Hobby Lobby, and I'm just going to start applying or place it on top. Then cut the X's, and I'm going to do the same thing to the top, and then using my rotary cutter, I am going to cut it nicely trimmed on the sides. We are now going to hot glue the little pumpkin right back on it. Instead of in the center, it's going to be towards the left side. And then we're going to use some of these rub-on letters from the Dollar Tree. I've never used them. Not these, at least. I've used other rub-ons, but to say that it gave me a hard time was to say the least. I struggled, guys. So the end result in the letters is not my favorite. I will admit it. I will tell you right now. However, I left it because it is what it is. You know, sometimes you just don't get it the way you want it, and it's okay. But overall, I think it worked out well. But they kept sticking to everything, and then I didn't have enough letters. And how does it look? Does it look okay? I don't know. I think it's fine. Anyways, I am going to take some of these Dollar Tree picks, and I'm just going to start hot gluing them, one on each side, kind of like falling to the sides. And then some of these lamb's ear that I already had on hand from Walmart, just hot gluing a couple of them just to add fullness and bring out a little bit more of that green tone. And then I'm going to take one of the little pumpkins that came in a bundle from Dollar Tree. We're going to hot glue one right there. And then a little acorn that I mentioned. I got these little acorns and pine cones in a little baggy, but there's a ton of them and they come in different colors, but I'm going to stay with the neutral colors today. And I am going to place one right underneath as well as a small pine cone. And then I'm going to take a larger pine cone and I'm just going to hot glue it there to the side. And that completes it, at least with the arrangement portion of it. Now I'm going to take some of this nautical rope from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to cut a piece of it and tape the end that I cut because it will fray if you don't. And I'm just going to hot glue it to the back of the tag. This is going to stay in place nicely, and it's going to give it a neutral, very textured hanging portion for it. But yeah, I think it turned out absolutely stunning. The way it was, again, it was beautiful, but I think adding a few little details from dollar store and anything you may have on hand, any other fabric you could have done as well. I just love the way it turned out. Beautiful. For this next DIY, I am going to take this little faux cutting board. It's like a decorative one. It had a chalkboard and it's from the Dollar General, and we're just going to remove the center portion, but we're not going to get rid of it. We're going to reuse it. So carefully I score it using a small little screwdriver and then just carefully pulled it apart because of course I didn't want to break it. The board was actually $3, which I thought was a pretty good deal. I actually got several, and throughout the months I have done different DIYs, so they're very versatile. So I am going to spray it with this adhesive spray. What a mess. That thing came out like, I was like, what is happening? That thing sprayed so hard. It was dripping. It did the work and it worked out fine, but it was a mess. Anyways, I applied some of this buffalo check fabric again, and I'm just going to trim it to the sides using my rotary cutter. Once again, that way it's just nicely trimmed and it looks nice. So now I'm going to take the actual cutting board kind of edge or trim, and I'm going to dry brush some Rust-Oleum chalk paint in the linen white. This is to lighten it up a little bit. It was just a little too dark for the buffalo check style that I wanted to have. So I'm just going to dry brush it, but it's going to be a little bit of a heavy dry brush. And I'm going to do that all around and let it fully dry. And then when it was dry, it was just time to put everything together. So I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to place the buffalo check board now, and I'm just going to staple it from the back, and being very careful because the MDF board can be tricky to work with. I did have staples that were perfect size because I didn't want it to go through on the other side. But once it was secured in place and stapled as needed, now I'm going to start adding some pumpkins. These are just a combination of pumpkins that I had from Hobby Lobby, from Dollar Tree, just some things I had. I stayed in the neutral tone once again, and I'm just going to start stacking them and hot gluing them, as well as some florals from the Dollar Tree. I am going to place the little jute string that was actually on the tag earlier, and I'm just going to replace it on this one, and I'm going to thread it through and tighten it. And that's it, guys. Look how beautiful this looks. Again, it's just some decor that I already had on hand, and just using a little bit of creativity turned this, I guess it wasn't horrible, right? The faux cutting board, it was nice, but just didn't have the look that I wanted. So with a few things, using decor that I already had in hand, I turned it into this beautiful decor, and look how beautiful everything looks together. I love it. So this is it for today, guys. I know there's a lot of inspiration here for you, but let me know which one stood out to you the most, or which one you'd like to recreate. If you are visiting for the first time, thank you so much for visiting. I hope you consider joining our YouTube family. And if you are returning, thank you so much for coming back. I have a playlist here with tons more of inspiration for you. Check it out. I'll see you later and have a blessed day. Bye.